The Weight of Silence by Heather Gudenkauf. Chapter 19. Deputy Sheriff Lewis. At my desk, cluttered with the horrible reminder of 2 missing girls, I wait for the agent from the States. I have just asked Meg, our dispatcher, to send one of our reservists, David Glass, a pharmacist, to be our point man at the homes. He will park our oldest, dented squad car at a point between the 2 homes. All the information gathered during the investigation will be relayed to David. The picture of Callie that has been passed out to all police officers stares up at me. She looks so like her mother. The same chestnut hair and brown eyes. The same messy ponytail that Tony had when she was young. Tony and I met when we were 7, in the winter of our 1st grade year. My mother, my sister, brother, and I had just moved to tiny Willow Creek from Chicago. My father had died unexpectedly the year before of a heart attack, and through a friend, my mom got a job at the college. The quiet and vastness of land made me lonely for the sound of traffic, and the familiar sound of neighbors laughing and arguing. I remember lying in my new bed, in my very own room, missing the sound of my little brother's soft snores, and not being able to sleep for the calm of the country. Our neighbors were acres away. The only sounds were that of a dog barking or the wind blowing. After so many sleepless nights, my mother finally bought me a small radio to place beside my bed to fill the silence that kept me awake. I started my first day at Willow Creek Elementary School reluctantly, and pretended to be sick. My mother sat on the edge of my bed and looked me in the eye. "Loris Michael Lewis," she began gravely. "I, of all people, know that this is not easy to leave what you know and begin something new. Your father is not around to help now. You are the oldest and everyone is looking to see what you do. If you lie in bed moping, so will they. If you get up cheerfully and ready to tackle the world, so will they. Mom, Katie's 3 months old. She ain't tackling anybody," I sassed. "Well, you're the oldest male figure she has to go by now. How you act is what she will grow up thinking a man should be like. Put that in your pipe and smoke it, mister. Get up." "Sheesh, Mom. Okay." I crawled out of bed, got dressed, and prayed that someone in this godforsaken town would know how to play a good game of stickball come spring. On that first day of school, my mother drove us. The sky was robin's egg blue, and the ground was covered in snow so brilliantly white that it hurt my eyes to look at. It was very cold, and we could see our breath, even though my mother had the heat turned to high and the rusty blue Plymouth Arrow she drove. The school was a large, aged, red-bricked 2-story set on the edge of town. It was actually bigger than my old school in Chicago, which was a small private elementary school, but they looked much alike, and that was comforting to me. The next thing I noticed was that students of all ages were running to the back of the school, clutching red plastic sleds and wooden toboggans. "Come on, Dave," I said to my brother, who was entering kindergarten. "Let's go." I grabbed my book bag, said a quick goodbye to my mother, and we tumbled out of the car. "Hey," she yelled, "don't you want me to walk you in?" "No thanks." I threw my bag over my shoulder and we followed the snow-crusted footprints to the back of the school. It was a breathtaking sight to my 7-year-old eyes. Hidden behind the school was an enormous hill that ran the length of the school and then some. The hill was steep in some areas and more level in others, and ended in an immense meadow, perhaps 2 football fields long. Kids formed lines at the top of the hill to take their turn down the various sledding paths. There was a definite pecking order to the arrangement. The older kids, probably 7th and 8th graders, were organized near a portion of the hill that descended at a sharp angle and had a number of man-made mounds, carefully rounded and padded to send sleds airborne. The smaller children gathered around the shorter hills with less of an incline. I watched as children whooped with glee on their way down the slopes, and viewed their determined journeys back up the hill, dragging their sleds behind them. One small figure caught my eye. The child, a boy, I figured my age or younger, was decked out in black snow pants, an oversized black winter coat, and black rubber boots. 2 mismatched mittens, one red, one green, were on his hands, and a black stocking cap was pulled low over his eyes. I watched as he confidently carried a silver dish-shaped sled to the edge of the big kid's hill and got in line behind 3 other towering boys. The boys turned, laughed, and unceremoniously shoved him out of the line. Not intimidated, he squeezed back into his spot and rooted himself soundly, ignoring the taunts flung at him. When it was his turn, he situated himself onto the disc, and a boy behind him shoved the sled with the toe of his big hiking boots. The sledder went careening down the hill, spinning and bouncing off the icy bumps, going airborne for a moment only to strike another frozen ramp. I held my breath for this poor soul who was sure to be killed with all of us witnesses. "Holy crap!" David whispered behind me, and I nodded in agreement. It seemed like forever, him going down that hill, his head jerking around on his neck, but he held on, dangerously tipping only once. Finally, his sled hit the final speed bump so violently that his stocking cap went flying, and a brown rope of hair soared behind him in a loose ponytail. He was a she, I realized with shock, and as she sled the final 200 feet to a stop, I had fallen completely and utterly in love. I still have to smile at the memory, and am still astounded at how quickly Tony had cornered off a spot in my heart. I am even more amazed that she still has claim to it. I look up from my desk. I know who my visitor is. I stand and go to greet Agent Fitzgerald from the state police.